Now you have the niche. The next step is to start creating your book. This is where a lot of people will get put off, but even if your English is terrible, I implore you to keep watching because there are ways around that. Here's some bad news if your plan was to flood the Kindle store with low quality books. Kindle books need to be good if they're going to do well. This is down to the fact that you want to try and get as many positive reviews as possible and as few negative ones. Likewise, it's also down to the fact that readers can very often choose to read a free sample of a book in order to get a taste for it. This means they'll get to see what the quality of the writing is like, whether the subject matter is any interest to them, and whether you appear to know what you're talking about. And if your book is low quality, well, then they won't be very likely to order the full thing. Likewise, some textbooks allow students to rent the book for a while on a 7-day free trial. If you have created an e-textbooks for students, and this is an interesting alternative to the career option, then again you need to ensure that it's good if you're going to hold their attention for long enough. So with that in mind, what makes a good Kindle book? And what makes a good book generally, for that matter? A good place to start is with the tone and style of your writing. This needs to be appropriate to the tone of the niche that you're writing for. So if your book is about financial modeling, then it's likely to be a more formal style of writing than if your book is about drawing cartoons, for example. But in any case, you need to ensure that your content is engaging, that it's fun to read, and that people want to keep reading through it. A good way to achieve this is by using a narrative structure. In other words, make your book a story. Even if it's a non-fiction topic, that doesn't mean you can't open by talking about your experiences and by leading the reader gently to the subject. You need to make sure that your content is well written and that it's going to sound professional. That means it's a very good idea to read through the book yourself and to get friends to read through it as well, if possible. You want to get rid of as many typos or grammatical errors as possible. A few are absolutely bound to fall through the net, but you need to keep them to an absolute minimum in order to maintain that professional and trustworthy impression. If your book is badly spelt or has lots of errors, then your readers will feel tricked or shortchanged, and they're unlikely to buy the full book. Note that most word processing software comes with an inbuilt spelling and grammar checker. Make full use of this. But do bear in mind that it can't replace having a human set of eyes to read over your content for you. Another tip is to try reading out loud, which will help you to improve the flow of your book too. Both those last 2 points are particularly important for that initial 10% of your book, the free sample and the bit beyond. This is how you'll really engage with your reader and how you'll get them to keep wanting to read more. Another tip here is to spend a little time talking about what's coming up in the book and setting the scene. This is valuable because it will get your readers excited for what they can learn and what they can expect if they buy the full book. Having a what you will learn at the start of the book is always a good idea, as is teasing some of the most valuable tips and insights that you'll be sharing later. At the same time, make sure you point out just how your book is going to be different from all the others on the market. Especially if you're going for a big niche, you need to bring something unique and new to the topic that people haven't read before. If it's a book containing workouts, then you need to discuss the unusual and little-known training methods found in that book that no one is aware of. That said, though, you don't want to waffle on with so much promise that it looks like you're just padding out the book. Aim to share at least one actionable tip in your intro that will impress your readers so that they will believe they can get more like that if they keep reading your full text. As well as ensuring that your book is well written and that you're providing real value, you can also improve the impact that your book has by thinking about some other aspects. One important thing to consider, for example, is the length of your book. Of course, longer books will at least appear to provide more value, so you need to ensure that your book is long enough to look like it's worth the money you're going to be charging. The longer the book, the higher the price tag that you can get away with. Of course, though, it's not all about the length. There are many other factors that are equally as important, such as the value of what you're sharing. Try to ensure that you're ticking both boxes. Have a long book that is nevertheless densely packed with useful and actionable information. A good standard length is 10,000 words. This is long enough that it will feel meaty and won't get complaints. At the same time, though, you can probably go down as low as 5,000 words, and there's no upper limit in terms of how long you want to make the book. If the mood takes you, you can make your book 50,000 words long. Make sure that you feature that prominently in the description, though, so that people recognize they're getting extra value. That length is a selling point. Another consideration is imagery. Remember, we discussed in an earlier video that the e-ink display is black and white, meaning that color images might not have quite the same impact they could do on another platform or in another format. Nevertheless, choosing to have some images will help to make your book look more professional, and it will also make it more engaging. You also need to think about the font, the layout, and various other aspects of your book, although we'll be talking more about the formatting and things later on. Just suffice to say that a large wall of tiny text is not an appealing thing to come across when you get a new book to read. On the other hand, if your book is nicely spaced out with large crisp fonts, lots of images, and a welcoming narrative structure that promises lots of interesting value inside, well, then that becomes a different matter. Now, some people might be watching this and wondering how on earth they can possibly write a book that's 5 to 15,000 words long and format it all beautifully. They say that everyone has a book in them, but that's not necessary to say that everyone has the ability to write that book and to make it entertaining and engaging. So the question then becomes how you're going to write that much content without it absolutely killing you. Moreover, there is a high chance that some people watching this won't speak English as their first language, or won't be confident in their ability generally to write in an engaging and entertaining manner. What if you're just not a good writer? In that case, you need to think about outsourcing the creation of your content. You can find writers on freelancing sites like People Per Hour, which is peopleperhour.com, or Upwork, which is upwork.com. This used to be called Elance. And you can also find them on marketing forums. The Digital Point forum is a good site to look at. It's forums.digitalpoint.com. And then if you look under the services section, you can find there's lots of people here who advertise things like content creation and so on. And also the Warrior Forum is a good place to look, especially the Warriors for Hire section, which you can find from the main menu, or you can go to warriorforum.com/warriors-hire. You can expect to pay anywhere from $1 to $5 per 100 words, but do keep in mind that you'll get what you pay for. It's worth paying a little bit more and getting a writer who will do their research and make your book sound professional. If you like, there's nothing stopping you from creating a detailed set of guidelines for them to follow and help them to see what the layout of your book should be and which key points you want included. That way, they write the book, but you remain the director, as it were. At these kinds of prices, you can create a book for $100 to $500, which in theory you should be able to make back. Of course, it's better to start with something you've created yourself, but if this is your only option, then it's still a viable model. Normally, you'll find turnaround time is very good too, anywhere from a few days to a few weeks.